Dear friends, I'm honored again, exceedingly, to talk with our good friend Colin Plume from Noble Gold Investments, specifically Lionel Nation Gold. Colin, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. Good to be here. Always excited to chat with you about what's happening in the world of finance.
Let's talk about what's going on with central banks and gold and how people are responding collectively to what is going on in the world.
Yeah. Last year, they just came out with the data that over 1,000 tons were bought by central banks. It was up 23% from the year before. So central banks are loading up on metals. China, Russia, some of the European countries are buying a lot more gold and silver than we've seen in the past. So that's exciting. But, we're getting mixed signals about the economy. Everybody says unemployment's low, stock market just hit an all-time high. People should be feeling much better if you look at those two indicators, yet optimism about the future is pretty low. It's not as good as you would think it would be with a low unemployment number of 3.7% and the stock market hitting an all-time high. So there's things happening inside of those numbers that are giving people a little bit of pause. And
do people feel that initially? I mean, they may look at that and they may say, oh, it says unemployment is down. But if they've got a job or whatever, they don't feel, oh, the stock market is up and down. They might be able to look at their 401ks. But is that something that directly affects them so that they feel it immediately?
Yeah, I think the problem is that the path to higher success 20, 30, 40 years ago was much simpler and straighter for a lot of people. It was, you go to high school, you go to college. If you went to college, they had all these studies that showed you'd make X amount more. If you got a master's, you'd make X amount more. But now that has sort of changed, right? The BA degree has sort of become, in a lot of people's eyes, maybe even a wash or maybe a negative if you look at the debt that's accumulated as a person.
Right.
So that straight shot of, go to high school, go to college, you're going to get out, then you'll get this great job and, you'll have this great, environment is sort of gone. And I can tell you, in the last few years, when I've interviewed people that came straight out of college, a lot of times they had this perception of, they would tell me that their college professor would be like, you got to negotiate your salary. You got to come out of the gate. I had a guy that I was going to hire and we didn't end up going with because even though we laid out what the salary is going to be after we went forward, he asked for like 20% more than what was the window of what we were paying for this position. And he's like, that's what they were telling me in college, is that I have a degree and that I need to negotiate and I'm going to get more. And so they've been like filling these kids' heads with a bunch of malarkey about what's going to happen.
Can you imagine that?
Right. So I think you have those things that are unnerving. And then obviously the administration, the president hasn't been a straight shot on business in general. Like, he's made some improvements and then he's pulled back some things. He hasn't really allowed entrepreneurs to kind of spread their wings the way a lot of people think that he should. So I think our who's in powers is playing into it. But yeah, typically with these indicators, you think people would feel much better. But I think the path to higher success is not as easy as it used to be. And, also buying a home is almost unattainable right now for most people. So a lot of the normal indicators of success are out of reach for an average American today. And so much of it comes down to we're tied to all the debt that we have. With $33 trillion in debt, we're tied to debt in day-to-day life. Businesses are living on debt, mortgages are debt, everything is debt driven. And we finally got into a position where the debt is sort of swallowing everybody. Credit card debt's at an all-time high. So people don't really own things anymore. They own a percentage of it, or they're paying off somebody at the bank or somebody for something. So it doesn't feel like that American dream is so attainable like it used to be.
Why is it, Colin Plume, that whenever there's something that goes wrong, some hiccup, some speed bump, something, they always say, and gold? Somehow it's like gold always is you only like gold when there's problems. Have you noticed that? That's always the way
Yeah.
it's always is it guns and gold, things like that. They're prepping, they're grabbing their gold. Gold is not necessarily what you do when the ship is sinking. It makes it sound like it's the investment of last resort. Am
Yeah.
I
But it is in a lot of, when you look at, we have a lot of clients that are bond managers. And I remember during the pandemic, they were telling me, your clients are going to do so well in gold, because even bond managers at that point, bond rates got so low that bond managers were buying gold. People that typically deal in the bond market, buying and trailing billions of dollars in bonds, they were buying gold because it was just a bad time for that investment. So yeah, I mean, I think there is a insurance element to gold where people relate it to like, oh, this is a worst case scenario type of investment. Also, I just think that as you build some wealth, you become a little bit more of a doomsdayer in terms of like, you're really trying to hold on to that as hard as possible. I have a friend who's doing a startup business, and he was talking to me about investors or raising money. And I said, like, you really have to convince people that this is going to be, because a startup business is probably the most risky thing that someone can invest into on the scale of risky. It's like startup business,
right?
Crypto, other type of business ventures, syndication kind of deals. And then gold is probably all the way to the right in terms of safety, right? The most. So if gold is going to keep doing what it's doing, which last year was up about 13%, why would anyone do anything else? Like if you can make, and I'm not saying we're going to make 13% in gold every year, but like if you can make 7 to 10% in something like gold, something safe like gold, why would you risk getting into anything else? So the environment today is investors are very particular. They're really cautious, and they want to know what their downside risk is. And I think with gold, today it's hovering right around 2,000. It's been a little above 2,000, below. It's kind of trying to find its floor at that 2,000 level. I think people feel very strong at gold at 2,000, and they love silver at $21, $22 because they just feel like the downside risk is pretty low.
There's such I love YouTube, and in my YouTube rotation, I don't know what algorithm I'm on, but I get this stuff that's bizarre. And all of a sudden, there are these wonderful people they sell gold, and they give away gold, and they show you how they melt the gold, and they make the bars of gold. And there's this thing about gold, unlike any other person. Like, hey, look at this stock. It's like, I don't even know what that means.
Right.
There's something tangible, psychological, and nobody's ever said, my God, gold is worthless now. Nobody,
Right. Yes.
There is no such thing as that. There's no such thing as we went belly up. It's so funny. I remember in the year 2025, nobody wanted gold anymore. We're into cardboard now.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, even, think about jewelry. Think about India. They give it away to people that get married. It's a big thing in the summer.
Oh, yeah.
There's a whole season of people giving away gold to their relatives or their friends. Like that's the gift they're giving them, which, by the way, I mean, think about how smart that is as an economy, that, they're not giving them some tchotchke gift that they don't want. They're actually giving them a gift of value that has, real value. And that's going to help that couple over time. Right. They're giving them something that has no debt. They're giving them gold to help them have a successful marriage.
And also, I'm sure you hear this all the time, but people say, well, what am I supposed to do with gold? It's like, what are you, nuts?
Yeah.
What do I do with it? What do you do with it? There's like 8 million people who are saying, this is what gold goes for today. Yeah. This is it. It's not like gold in Jersey is worth here, in Connecticut is no. I mean, there might be some fluctuation.
Yeah.
My goal, I'm sure yours as well, is to demystify, to explain, and to reintroduce to common rational people the common rational genius of gold, silver, and metals, which brings us to you, my friend, and to LionelNationGold.com. Somebody might be watching us and saying, you know what? I'm sold. But I'm a little, I don't want to call these people. They're going to take advantage of me. They know I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Walk us through what happens when they call
Yeah, no, I mean,
877-646-5347 and you tell them Lionel sent you. Give us an idea.
I would say that is the big concern why people don't call. And that's why I always say information is king. Get information, which is a big reason why I started my own company, is I felt that there was a gap between the information that's out there. Because when you're buying a physical product like this, there's companies that sell 5,000 to 8,000 different coins and bars. We basically sell between 10 and 20 different products in total, because these are the products that we know people are buying and selling every day. That not just us, that the central banks are buying, that everyone's buying. These are commonly traded items. So yes, people are going to have questions about those, and that's good. They should have questions. I think they're going to find that they're going to like the people that they talk to at Noble Gold. You know, my sales team has been around a long time. They all buy gold and silver. So they're going to answer all the questions in a way that you're going to feel good about. And yeah, we deal with a lot of first-time investors, and we walk them through it. And that's important to us, that they feel comfortable about what they're doing. And I think if you look at our reviews and you compare us to some of the big other dealers out there, we have a really good reputation because people feel good about the experience. They like how fast we ship. They like the product. We follow up. We answer the phone. You know, these are all things that are not so readily available in today's sort of investment world.
I was talking to someone that you don't know, we don't know. I don't think he knew I had any relationship with you whatsoever. And I mentioned your name, and he said, Golden. I said, yeah, he goes, no, gold. I said, that's pretty punny. He didn't get it anyway, but he meant it. He said, no, they're the best. And it's absolutely true.
Thank you.
One more thing you mentioned about central banks. You know, Colin, I don't want to get conspiratorial. You know, conspiratorial is another way of saying the truth, of being apprised of what's happening. But eventually there's going to be something where I'm not going to want to be anything. I don't want to have some central bank digital currency or somebody be able to turn me on or off. I want to be able to have something in my possession. Absolutely. And not something on a ledger sheet where somebody can just all of a sudden zap it out of existence. Am I being paranoid, or does that make sense to you?
You know, it's funny you said that, because I was talking to somebody about storage, which, you know, we do storage for clients too, but the majority of our clients, they want the metal. They want it shipped. And so we ship a ton of metal, millions and millions every month. And they were sort of surprised that so many people wanted it, but it's for the exact reason that you just mentioned, Lionel. People want to have a little security at home. They want to have a little wealth at home. And, you know, when banks go down, and there's going to be more banks that go out of business this year, and whether it's directly because of the dollar, I don't know. It's going to be mostly probably because of commercial lending, that there's a lot of bad debt that's going to come due, and banks are going to be in trouble, and they're going to go out of business. But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if your bank goes out of business, it creates some concern. And knowing that you have some gold and silver at home, no matter what happens, you have that insurance in place. And people like that. They want to have some wealth at home. It's very common. We ship a lot to people's doorsteps. And if people feel good about it, you know, wherever they put it, I don't know. I don't ask, but they do feel better once they get that gold and silver in their hands.
But going back to what we're saying, you know, people talk about CBDC, central bank digital currency, and even though it may not go there, if you listen to what's going on, people are always worried about us going cashless or going digital and having something that can be completely and totally wiped. You know, years ago, way before this, somebody said, you know, isn't it great that all books are going to be online? We'll be able to have our books online. And somebody said, well, that makes book burning a lot easier. And all of a sudden, they don't. So that's the thing I want people to understand. This business about online and digital is this, to me, the scariest thing.
Yeah.
Because how do you back up and prove, sure, and God forbid some despotic regime comes in, we're hit from some EMP pulse, some hacker, some ransom. who know? We're hearing about this all the time. But
Yeah.
if you've got something in your possession,
Yeah.
if you've got it, it changes everything completely.
I
It's
mean,
not
because you hear about these things like Wells Fargo opening up false accounts. They got fines for many years. There's a lot of banks that have gotten in trouble because once they have your data, what they were doing is basically as they open new accounts, they made more money. The reps there, and so once a bank has that kind of data, there are these improprieties that can happen with your money. Unfortunately, maybe there's a guy that's charging, $1 a month that you just don't even notice. I mean, there's all these weird things that can happen. Nobody's going to notice that little charge. So it is nice to take a little control back of your money. And also, I think the idea that you're talking about is the fact that so many banks are shrinking. There's less banks. It gives us less options out there. That's why regional banks are important. And I'm concerned about it for a lot of people because the less banks there are, the more control the banks have. And that makes it more dangerous for us because there's less options.
This month, I believe we were giving away, not giving away, you had a King Charles coin.
Quarter ounce, yep.
Which I thought was so interesting and so propitious, depending upon how you look at it now, in viewing King Charles. And there's something to that instead of saying, here you go, here's your sack of, dust or coin, there's something that is, it's memorable. There's something, it's almost art, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, and it's made by the Royal Mint, and it was the first non-Britannia coin that they made with King Charles on it. It's a quarter ounce of gold. So if you qualify for an IRA this month, you'll get that coin sent to your doorstep.
So somebody calls up and they say, okay, look, I want to roll over. I want to do what can they do? And when they call 877-646-5347 and tell them Lionel sent you.
Correct. Yeah.
Or go to LionelNationGold.com.
Everything we have it all online that you can DocuSign all the documents. The only thing that I would say that you need is you just need to print out or have a copy of your statement or have your statement available. So you have the account numbers available, but the process is very easy. We can walk you through it. You could sign the paperwork in 5 minutes. We could send the paperwork over to your custodian and you could be in gold in 1 to 2 weeks. And on an IRA and a cash purchase, you could be in gold within a week. So it's pretty fast.
I like that expression. You could be in gold.
Gold. Exactly.
You could be in gold, indeed.
Yeah.
Well, Colin Plume, anything else we want to do? The number one thing that you want to say, the one point where after we speak, you say, I should have mentioned that. What is it?
I think the number one thing is that in today's environment with so many things happening in the financial world, it is nice to know that you have one thing that you are completely in control of. Yes, you're buying it from us and we offer a great product, but at the end of the day, it's yours. And there are so few things that you own as an investment that's solely owned by you. And what we offer is one of those things. So if that's something that's interesting to you, definitely give us a call and we can help.
And something indestructible.
Indestructible.
When you hear about Northern California fires, Southern California mudslides, we've got friends of ours in San Diego. All of a sudden, they're getting, their homes are worried about hurricanes. Which is a whole other story, but weird weather. There is a chance, insurance notwithstanding, that somebody's home could be either damaged or completely ruined. You cannot destroy gold. It can't be done. It just,
Whenever they find people that dug up some of their belongings and they put cash, the cash is gone.
Right.
It's eaten by the rats or whatever. If they dig a hole somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
Gold and silver is always there. And I've seen it hundreds of times. I've seen it where someone goes, grandpa died and he dug a hole and there's $10,000 in cash. The cash is gone. The gold and silver is there. So as you were saying, it stands the test of time. So anyone that wants to learn, get educated.
Yes.
Gold, silver, platinum, palladium, we're here. Don't feel like there's any question we can't answer. We want to hear it. Anything you want to ask us, we're available. And as always, Lionel, I appreciate you.
And you are, I know this sounds gratuitous and blowing smoke. You are the nicest, most accommodating. Your staff is so, I mean, and it makes sense because you're not putting a gun to anybody's head. You're going to say, no, you're going to like this here. There's no high pressure. You know, you think the other night I was watching, don't ask me, I thought of you, but for the wrong reason. Wolf of Wall Street, where they're going, you want to buy this? I'm thinking,
Right.
no, that's not you. That's
Right.
you don't, there's no such thing as penny gold. I'm sure there is, but there's a boiler room where you're selling gold.
Right.
And if you were, God bless you. Colin Plume, Noble Gold Investments, 877-646-5347. Or I prefer LionelNationGold.com. Tell them Lionel sent you because we want them to know where you heard this. And my friend, it's always a pleasure. And I wish you nothing but the best. And we will talk again.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All the very best.